before understanding the purification practices. We were looking at the part which regarded interdependence. Then after that, the law of karma, what is positive karma, negative karma, and negative actions, which we call punya and papam. And then we also saw the part which regarded, what it means to purify, and we start looking at that. So now I would like to go more into details about the actual meaning of purification. One very basic and very important concept that we have gone through this morning is the fact that there is no result without causes. It means it's not possible for me to experience anything if I have not created the causes to experience that. And at the same time, it's not possible to experience anything even if the causes are there, but the conditions are not present. If we make a metaphor, more material metaphor, what happens is like, I cannot buy anything if I have not the money accumulated. If I haven't accumulated the money, I cannot buy, even though it is for sale. And if something which I want is I have the money, but it's not for sale, I still cannot buy it. So having accumulated the money, it means accumulating the causes, the merits. While the result, the condition is having it for sale. It's like having if they are the conditions, and the conditions in the present. These two things need to be together in order there to be the result. So, the point is that whenever we experience anything, the reason why we are experiencing it is because causes and conditions have been created. And if I want to have a certain type of results in the future, I must create a certain type of causes. Simple as that. And if I want to avoid certain types of results, I must avoid certain types of causes. So what happens is that when we do something, even though we forget about it and time passes, this does not mean that we are not responsible anymore for it. It's not because 1 year have passed and I don't remember it anymore, that I'm not responsible anymore for what I have done. It's not because if I do something wrong today and then I fall asleep, the next day I'm to have a total amnesia. This doesn't mean that I'm not responsible for what I have done. I'm fully responsible. So we have the amnesia from one life to the other, but this doesn't mean that we are not yet anymore responsible for what we have done. Even we have a lot of amnesia from one day to the other somehow. How many things we don't remember from 1 year to another, from one day to another. We even don't remember much what we ate yesterday for lunch. Forget about remembering our actions that we try to hide from ourselves. So, the fact is that even when we talk about on the path to enlightenment, it's not enough just to understand. That's a very important point. To understand is important, to study, to understand is important, but in every teaching, it's bringing two other aspects which are fundamental, which is to accumulate merits, to create the virtuous causes, to accumulate the positive causes, and to eliminate the negative causes that we have done, to purify the negativities. Okay? Like in a monastery, like the monastery of Sera, where I was studying, there is very clear the process of studying in the monastery is divided into two parts, which is the part of study, which is the conceptual part of understanding and studying and so on, and the other part which is accumulating merit and purifying the negativities, which is done through karma yoga, which is done through meditations, through prayers, and many other ways. But these two parts are very important. Otherwise, if we develop a lot of understanding, but there is no merit, we cannot realize it. It can remain something just intellectual for a long time. Also in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara by Shantideva, it starts by explaining bodhicitta, and then there is the part in which it says, once you have developed a mind of great love and compassion for all sentient beings, bodhicitta, then how to keep it alive? How to maintain it? By accumulating merit, purifying one's own negativities, and developing conscientiousness. But this part of accumulating merit is essential because If I develop, for example, renunciation, love towards myself, and so on, this will bring me a state of much more balance and happiness and well-being. But if I don't have the merits for that, if I have not created the causes to reach such state, I will never be able to do it. So the realizations of Dharma, they are not the result only of a conceptual process of understanding things. It's important to understand, but it's not enough. So that's why, if we look in history, it has always been so important, the part of accumulation of merits and purifying the negativities. One of the main reasons why we need to purify our negativities, first of all, there is a big difference between eliminating a negative karma by experiencing its result and purifying the negative karma. If we follow the same metaphor as before, material way is like having a debt, and I can eliminate the debt in two ways. Or I pay it, or I get an amnesty for it. So, the big difference is that in one way I'm paying, the other way I'm able to eliminate it without paying. So this, in the other words, coming back to the meaning, is I have accumulated a negative action, negative causes. I can eliminate that negative cause I have accumulated or by experiencing its results or by purifying it. To purify means to eliminate the causes without needing to experience the results. Okay? And this is something which is actually very special, that we can do that. And it's possible. Why? Because karma is also impermanent, what we have already done. So according to the way how we act with it, we can change it. We can make it stronger, we can make it weaker, and so on. So, I think all of us, if we look to our past, at some point, some stupid things we did, which is moments that we acted out of anger or jealousy or envy, and words which we said which were not very kind, and at the same time, and choices that we made that were a bit selfish, and so on. We have always done these things, no? Some of us a little bit more, some of us a little bit less, some parts of our life more, some parts of our life less. That's fine. You know, we are ignorant, we are in samsara, that's part of it. So we shouldn't recognize it with a guilty mind. That's very important. We cannot enter into the state of feeling guilty. Oh, how bad I am, now I need to suffer. You know, here I am, I need to purify, and then we recognize I am so bad, and then we start, you know, that feeling, okay, I must suffer because of everything that I have done. That's not the right. Admitting our own mistakes is not putting ourselves as the victim of our. Punish myself for it, but I'm also not going to pass the hand and say, oh, nothing have happened, don't worry, just continue to do again after, everything will be fine. That's also not fine. So I need to generate the awareness that what I did was a mistake. How beautiful, how nice that I can recognize the actions which were not right, so I don't continue to go on then again and again. And from that I generate the intention to stop and not to repeat them again. So, this balance, do you think you are worth of going to the heaven? And 98 from the idea that if I suffer, I am already paying my debts, so I can continue to do the same thing again. So, this is one extreme in which we don't see our faults, in which we don't see our negative behaviors. The other extreme is in which we put ourselves completely with a guilty mind, and we don't know how to embrace ourselves and how to direct positively, in which we feel that we need to suffer and we need to go through a process of punishment and so on. That's also not how it should be. Okay, it shouldn't be like that also. So, purification is very, very important part. One of the reasons is that our tendency, when we experience something negative, is to react negatively again. So, if we follow the same metaphor as before, it's like I get a debt, I pay a debt, so what I do to pay the debt, I make a new debt, maybe with a higher interest rate. And I continue to make debts to pay debts and debts to pay debt, and then it's endless. So, this is also something that we need to avoid. Because when we enter into a negative cycle, into a vicious negative cycle, it's very difficult to get out. We can see this quite clearly in places where there is a lot of violence and suffering, like in places with war and other situations like this, where there is a lot of suffering, result of negative karma, but at the same time it's constantly creating more and more negative karma. The people that are the victims, they also act in a way of violence themselves also, and it's constantly creating this negative cycle. So we need to do as much as we can to avoid these negative results. It's not like, oh, I did mistakes, so I need to suffer. No, we need to avoid suffering. That's why we need to purify our negativities in a joyful way. It's not like suffering, oh, how bad I am. No, how good I can recognize my mistakes so that I can purify them and I can avoid repeating them again in the future. So it's with this intention that we need to purify our karma. And we follow the practices of purification. Okay? So this is one important part of it. In order for us to understand better what it means to purify our karma, it is important for us first to understand a little bit the mechanism of karma, which was the fourth aspect when I said that the karma is impermanent and so on. So let's try to understand the following. Once we do an action, once we do whatever, positive, negative action, whatever it is, it's like planting a seed and having something that is like an energy that we have made. But it is impermanent. It interacts with the present also. It's not something that is completely done, finished, permanent, not moving anymore. Okay, that's why it can give results, because it's interacting, it's impermanent. Okay, so there are some very simple rules of how it works. One of them is, whatever we have done, whatever type of action was done, if we regret of that action, we make that action weaker. If we rejoice of that action, we make that action stronger. For example, I can help a person, and by the end of the day, after having helped the person, I said, oh, I shouldn't have done that, and see, he's not grateful enough. I regret of that positive action, so I make it weaker. If I rejoice, oh yes, so good, I could have helped that person today, I'm so happy about it, so wonderful. I rejoice, I make it stronger. When I do something that is negative, I harm someone, and I regret about the fact that I have harmed that person, this would make it weaker. If I rejoice about what I've done, yes, today I said these words to him, next day I need to do it even stronger, yes, I should repeat that way. What happened? Make it stronger, that karma. So whatever is the karma, positive or negative, when we rejoice, it becomes stronger. When we regret, it becomes weaker. If we hide it, it becomes stronger. If we openly admit, it becomes weaker. So, for example, if we do something positive, I go there, I make 1 hour of meditation, I concentrate so well, it makes so good to me. Then, if I start going around and saying to everybody what I did, okay, now I make an example which is a bit extreme, but I finish my meditation in the morning, then I go on Facebook and I say, today morning, 1 hour meditation, beautiful realizations, it was so good, blah, 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 I make something so good. Then I go in the evening, I see I get 1,500 likes. So the next day I go to meditate, how many likes I would get today when I tell that I'm going to meditate for 1 hour and a half. I do half an hour more than yesterday so that people can see how good meditator I am. Lost, the first day really was done well, the second day it's already gone. Not anymore for the pure sake of the meditation, but it's more for the recognition. So at this point, what happened is that there is a part in which we need to recognize that we have our own weakness. One of them is the attachment to our image. So when we do something good and we start talking about it, slowly, not right away, but slowly we start doing it for our image and not anymore for the real good motivation we had in the beginning. Not right away. It's something that starts entering slowly. It's like an infiltration that is coming slowly. So the next day, yes, you have a good motivation, but somewhere, oh yes, today I can say and this and that. It slowly it comes. So this makes that positive karma to get weaker. On the other side, when we do something that is negative and we hide it from ourselves and others, we don't say to anyone that I have done that negative and I don't share and I hide it completely, what happens? We make it grow because it will help us to repeat it again and that energy continues to flow. On the other side, when I do something negative and I openly admit and I say to others, oh look, yes, I have done this, and I'm not hiding it from anyone, I'm sorry, whatever, then it automatically helps for that energy to become weaker and not to grow more. So, the rules are, when we rejoice, it becomes stronger. The energy of what we have done, the karma we have done becomes stronger. When we regret, it becomes weaker. When we make it public, when we open, it becomes weaker. When we keep it somehow secret, when we do not make it public, it becomes stronger. So, for example, if we do something positive, we can share it maybe with our guru, we can share with a specific spiritual friend, something like this, but we should not go around talking about what we have done. Realizations are to be kept within. Otherwise, there is a danger of losing it. This is one of the points. So, when we talk about purification and accumulation of merit, it becomes very logical, no? For the positive actions, I need to rejoice and I need to keep them inside. For the negative actions, I need to regret and I need to make them public. Because I want to make them weaker. So, the process of purification, there are two important parts when we talk about purifying. We start with the first one, which is called the 4 powers of purification, Topshi. The 4 powers of purification start with the first power, which is the power of the basis, which actually is giving the support for the main part of purification, which is regret. Regret, which personally I prefer calling it to openly admit our mistakes. Because when we talk about regretting, somehow comes already with the idea of guilt. So openly admit our mistakes. So, but if we like, we can also call it regret. For me, the word doesn't matter. The meaning is the most important thing. So when I openly admit my mistakes, this is the basis to purify, because this is when I start regretting, I start putting an energy on the opposite direction of what I have done. But in order for me to be able to do it truly, I must have the basis, which is an opposite inner attitude regarding that action that I have done. It's, for example, if I fought with someone and I acted with anger towards that person, and I still am feeling the same anger towards the person, I will never truly regret what I have done. Okay, I have told you bad words, but I should have slapped on your face, I regret telling you only bad words. This is not regretting, no? This is not openly admitting a mistake. So, in order for me truly to be able to openly admit, because also we are not talking here about something that we go through a list of negative actions, then we go through and we say, this I did, this I did, this I did, okay, so I need to regret upon this. Oh, here I am, Guru Buddha, sorry, I did this, and that. Okay, I'm Vajrasattva, finished, goodbye, let's go. That's not the point. The point is actually that we need to do a process that comes from within us. And the first part is generating an opposite attitude. And most of the negative actions that we have done, it is based on aversion, envy, jealousy. It's based on violence, verbal, physical, mental, of not keeping correctly our commitments, of lack of respect to those that we need to respect, and so on. So, the opposite to that is basically 2. One is all the negative actions that we have done towards any sentient being. To be able to purify it, we must first generate love and compassion towards them. That's why we need to generate bodhicitta. And all the negative actions we might have done towards holy beings, the Dharma, the Guru, the Buddhas, then we need to develop refuge. So, first of all, taking refuge and developing the bodhicitta is the basis for us to purify the negative actions. Okay? So, even if we develop an artificial type of love, that's already good to begin with in order to purify. But we need to develop a positive feeling towards sentient being, because without that we cannot sincerely admit what we have done as a mistake. Okay? The second step, as we have said, is to openly admit our actions as a mistake. I recognize that I have spoken in a violent way. Normally we openly admit our actions since the beginningless time. Also because, it's quite simple. We are quite boring. We always do the same stuff. So one of my teachers, he used to say, Geshe Tupte Rinchen, he used to say, oh, you cannot remember really what you did in all your past lives. You cannot remember really what you did in this whole life. So just do one thing. Just go back to observing all the actions that you did in this last week. Think about, the times which I spoke in a way which was not respectful, and here I was jealous, and I thought I had this negative thought, and there I had this, I lost my temper or this or that. We look at whatever, I didn't keep my commitments, I was not respectful where I'm supposed to be or whatever. So what we do is that we go through what we have done in this week, then we multiply for the past month, then we multiply for the past years, then we multiply for the past lives. Because somehow we are also quite repetitive, no? We are very boring, actually. Even, for me, it's quite interesting to see always when I travel around and I go to, it doesn't matter if I am in Brazil or in the United States or in China or in Europe or in India or in Tibet, it doesn't matter. Anywhere I go, people are the same. The problems comes from the same things. We do the same things again and again. And then we go to someone's life and we go to see, we constantly repeat the same actions. With different names, with different forms, here and there, but basically it's the same. So if we understand what we did in the past short time, we multiply it for the past, that's quite good already. So normally we say, I openly admit all the negative actions of body, speech and mind which I have done since the beginningless time. Then we can actually go to specific things, which is also very useful. We take the past week, the past months, and we remember specifically actions that we have done which were not correct, and then we multiply that for the past. The next step, which is very important, is to generate a strong intention not to repeat again such actions. This is something that is really, really important. Because when I generate the intention, I will not repeat again. This brings us the commitment. And by that, we start generating the force to go against that karma that we have accumulated. And then comes the fourth strength, the fourth power of purification, which is to do something positive, to generate a positive energy, to do something positive, to accumulate a merit, in order to oppose to the negative action that we have done in the past. Okay? So I will make offerings, I will help people, I will save lives, whatever. I will do things that are positive. Normally positive actions we divide into two types. Basically is generating joy and happiness or eliminating suffering and avoiding suffering. These are the two main things that we can do. Okay? So it's mostly related to others. It's related to ourselves, there is keeping our virtuous commitments, practicing generosity and so on. Anyhow, so this is the part which regards purifying our negativities, the power. Okay? There is one extra part which is very much connected to the practice of Vajrasattva, and I like to talk about it very briefly now, and then we will do a little bit of practice together. Okay? Then tomorrow we will explain the practice in more details. Okay. So the last thing is that one very important aspect when we talk about purification is to understand that we can purify. Our nature allows us to purify our negativities. If we do not believe that we are able to purify, if I think that by nature I am bad and I am negative and I am whatever, we are not able to purify at all. So we need to understand that our nature allows us to purify our negativities. Okay? So, in this booklet, which I have prepared some time ago, which is called Practices of Purification, we have added here 3 practices. The first one is called the Confession of the 35 Buddhas, or openly admitting downfalls to the 35 Buddhas, which is mostly related to the 4 powers of purification, which we have just said before. Then we have meditation and recitation of Vajrasattva and Vajradhaka fire puja. The practice of Vajrasattva, which is the main one that I like to see. To understand it, first we need to go a little bit through the meaning of the name. Vajrasattva. Vajra literally means diamond. Okay. So, what is actually the meaning of diamond in this sense? Diamond is a metaphor. A metaphor for something that is very pure, and at the same time is a metaphor for something that is indivisible. Because of all the stones, the hardest of all stones is diamond. So it's something that is not easy to divide and to break apart. Okay. So, sattva means being. So the being of diamond, the indivisible being. But what is indivisible? Method and wisdom. We can see the meaning of that by seeing what Vajrasattva is holding. Vajrasattva holds a Vajra, which symbolizes method, which is love, compassion, generosity, or representing also great bliss. And the bell, which also the sound of the bell and the bell itself represents his wisdom, the correct view of reality. Both together represents also male energy and female energy. Okay? So, in the whole path to enlightenment, the most important thing that we need to develop is method and wisdom. In the path of the Vajrayana path is called great bliss and emptiness. And then the important thing is that method and wisdom needs to go together and needs to be united in the union of method and the union of wisdom. This is fundamental. Everywhere in the teachings we'll find this. In the Path of Sutra it's explaining we need to accumulate merits and wisdom. Merits is the method, wisdom is the wisdom. Merits is the part of love, compassion, generosity, morality, and so on. Wisdom is always the correct view of reality. So, these two together represents not only the path to enlightenment, but is also showing the state of Buddhahood and showing the potential that we can reach that state. Another meaning that we can give to it also, which is that the Vajra, the method, it's also symbolizing a relative truth. The fact that all phenomena exist in a way which is depending on the imputation of the name, and everything exists in a relative way. The bell represents the wisdom, which is absolute truth. The fact that all phenomena lack inherent existence because everything is interdependent. Okay, we're not going into details on that right now. But while we are still with ignorance and the imprints of ignorance, we are never able to realize both at the same time. Or we see interdependence and how phenomena are relative, or we see that all phenomena lack inherent existence and are of the nature of emptiness. A Buddha is the one that is able to realize both at the same time directly. Okay? So that's why the union of the bell and the dorje, it's also symbolized the state of mind of a Buddha, in which it's indivisible union of method and wisdom, indivisible union of relative and absolute truth and the realization of relative and absolute truth. And this is being symbolized by the word Vajra. Vajra means indivisible. So is in what indivisible? Great bliss and emptiness, method and wisdom, which is indivisible. Sattva, the being, the one that holds these qualities. Okay? So the one that is, the ones that holds the state of being indivisibly, of holding this indivisible state of great bliss and emptiness. Okay? So in the mantra Vajrasattva and the practice, what we do is we recognize that we also can purify our negativities because our nature is pure. So we have Vajrasattva as the example of being that is completely pure as holding the essence of the non-dual union of great bliss and emptiness. We recognize that we have the same potential and we purify our negativities by requesting the blessings in order to become of the same nature also ourselves. On that process, what it means to have a pure nature. I'm not going to go into details on that right now. But in very few words, to have a pure nature means Not that one day we were pure and now we are not pure anymore. It means that we are interdependent. I am a being in samsara with all my suffering and defilements, but I am interdependent. I lack inherent existence, which means if I act within a positive interdependence, gradually I will develop more and more the qualities until I can get completely out of suffering. If I remain in a negative cycle of interdependence, I will suffer more and more. Okay? So, the practice of Vajrasattva that we will see tomorrow, it brings us this very clear idea of recognizing our nature. That I can purify myself because my natures allow me to do so. So during the practice of Vajrasattva, it's not that we are asking, oh, Vajrasattva, please come and do something for me, you know. Sure, there is the Vajrasattva, the emanation of the Buddha and so on, but we ask the blessings in order to purify our own negativities because we have the same potential to become of the same nature. Okay? So I will just read briefly the meaning of the mantra. And remembering that mantras is something that it's not easy to translate and it's not easy to understand. Normally it's like very, very essential, a lot of meaning put in very few words. So the translation here says, body, speech and mind of all Buddhas with a diamond nature. Fulfill your commitment to take care of me. Vajrasattva nature. Grant me all the attainments. Grant me all the siddhis. Give me the mental power and the wisdom of the 5 supreme healers. Lord, endowed transcendental destroyer, I am indestructible diamond too. So do not give up on me. I have the Vajra nature of great commitment being, the union of great bliss and emptiness. In other words, making it maybe more simple, it means we imagine Vajrasattva in front of us and we say, oh Guru Buddha Vajrasattva, you are of such a pure nature. I am of the same nature also. You have already developed your pure nature. I am still a little bit behind. But please bless me so that I can purify all my negativities, develop my qualities and become just same as you. So, making it simple, the mantra Vajrasattva is not something, oh look how many bad things I have done, I need to be punished by it. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with recognizing one's own pure nature and developing one's own qualities. As seeing Vajrasattva as the example of that, within the union of great bliss and emptiness. This is the meaning of it. Okay? So now we just do the practice little bit, briefly, and then tomorrow we go with the actual explanation of the practice and doing it for more time. Okay? Kuncho sumla kyabsu dro simchen tamche dagi dro chanchu nela guebragi chanchu semni yandake Kuncho sumla kyabsu dro simchen tamche dagi trol chanchu nela guebragi chanchu semni yandake Kuncho sumla kyabsu dro simchen tamche dagi trol Chanchu nela guebragi, chanchu semni yandake. Prendo rifugio nei 3 gioielli, libererò gli esseri senzienti e li condurrò all'illuminazione. Genero la pura motivazione della bodhicitta. I go for refuge to the triple gem. I shall liberate all sentient beings and place them in the state of enlightenment. I shall purely generate bodhicitta. Rangi chewura pamle pemadang ale dawe kingura gitentu honle dorje karpo tse ngaba te wala honge tsempa telewe sretru du yonsu gyurbale Dorje sempa kudo karpo she chi cha nigi dorje dan tribu zempa yoma dorje nyema karmo she chi cha nigi trigo dan tepa zimbe kyupa niga an targi nasa dan rimbo che gen natso pe genpa
Nige niga targe nasadang Rinpoche ge natso pe ge pa ya dorje kiltronge shupa te tukra dawe tento hunye karpo tele vesre tru randre yeshe pa chen ram sa humba nisu me para kyur Larian tuke hon se tra wange laran chen ra deshin sheba tam chege dila ngombra wang kurdo so she sowa tabe tenam ge yeshege dutse kangwe pumba ton omo sarva tata gata abi shengate samaya shire ye hom she wang kur ko yeshege dutse kang Mikyo pe ugyen paray gyur chumdende dorje semba dadan simchen tamche gi diktre tam tamtse nyamcha tamche chanshin dapra tsedu so she sawa tabe tuge hunle vesre trum simchen tamche gi diktre chang sangye seche la nyebe chebabul tenam ge yunden tamche vege nambra dune tuge hunla tim si je dan tuto punsun so para kyur. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva teno padishta didro me bawa Suto kayo me bawa supo kayo me bawa Anurakto me bawa sarva siddhi me prayatsan sarva karma sutsa me Siddhan Shriyan Kuru Hum Ha 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 Ho Bhagav Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Munza Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Sudokayo me bhava, Subokayo me bhava, Anurakto me bhava, Sarva Siddhi me prayatsan sarva karma sutsa me Siddhan Shriyan Kuru Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Munza Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva Ahum Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Tishta Tidro me bhava Suto kayo me bhava, supo kayo me bhava, anurakto me bhava, sarva siddhi me prayatsan sarva karma sutsa me, siddhan shriyan kuru hum, ha 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 ho bhagav, sarva tada gada vajra mame munza vajra bhava ma, samaya sattva ahum pe, om vajra sattva samaya manupalaya, vajra sattva teno. Suto kayo me bhava, supo kayo me bhava, anurakto me bhava, sarva siddhi me prayatsan sarva karma sutsa me cidam shriyan kuru. Ha 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 ho bhagavan sarva tata gata vajra mame vajra bhava ma samaya sattva ahum pe om vajra sattva samaya manupalaya vajra sattva tenopa tishta didro me bhava suto kayo me bhava Supo kayo me bhava, anurakto me bhava, sarva siddhi me prayatsan sarva karma sutsa. Siddhan shriyan kuru hum, ha 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 ho bhagam. Sarva tada gata vajra mame munza vajra bhava ma, samaya sattva ahum pe. Om vajra sattva samaya manupalaya, vajra sattva tenopa tishta didro me bhava. Subo kayo me bhava, anurakto me bhava, sarva siddhi me prayatsan sarva karma sutsam. Siddhan shriyan kuru hum, ha 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 ho bhagav. Sarva tata gata vajra mame munza vajra bhava. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalaya Vajrasattva tenopa tishta didro. Subokayo me bhava, anurakto me bhava, sarva siddhi me prayatsan sarva karma sutsa. Siddhan shriyan kuru hum, ha 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 ha. Bhagavan sarva tata gata vajra mame munza vajra bhava. Samaya sattva ahum pe om vajra sattva samaya manupalay. Me bhava sutok. Subokayo me bhava, anurakto me bhava, sarva siddhi me prayatsan sarva karma. Siddhan Shri Ankuro Ho Ha 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 Ho Bhagav Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mamimza Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva Aho Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Tishta Tidro Mebao Soto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebao Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Meprayaza Sarva Karma Sut Kuro Ho Ha 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 Ho Bhagav Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Minza Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva Ah Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Tishta Didro Mebao Subokayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebao Sarva Siddhi Meprayazan Sarva Karma Sutsa Me Tsidan Shri Ankuro Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva A Tenopa Tishta Didro Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Meprayazan Sarva Karma Sutsa Siddhan Shri Ankuro Ho Ha 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 Ho Bhagav Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Minza Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva Ahom Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenop Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Meprayazan Sarva Karma Sutsa Me Tsidan Shri Ankuro Ha 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 Ho Bhagav Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Minza Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva Ahum Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Tishta Didro Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Meprayazan Sarva Karma Sutsa Siddhan Shri Ankuro Ha 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 Ho Bhagav Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Minza Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva A Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Tishta Didro Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Siddhan Shri Ankuro Ho Ha 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 Ho Bhagav Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Minza Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva Ahum Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Tishta Didro Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Meprayazan Sarva Karma Sutsa Siddhan Shri Ankuro Ho Ha 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 Ho Bhagav Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Minza Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva Ahum Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Suto Kayo Mebawa Subo Kayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Meprayazan Sarva Karma Sutsa Siddhan Shri Ankuro Ho Ha 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 Ho Bhagav Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Minza Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva Ahum Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Tishta Didro Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Meprayazan Sarva Karma Sutsam Siddhan Shri Ankuro Ho Ha 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 Ho Bhagav Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Minza Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva Ahum Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenop Tishta Didro Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Meprayazan Sarva Karma Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Vajra Bhava Ma Samaya Sattva Ahum Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Tishta Didro Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Meprayazan Sarva Karma Sutsa Siddhan Shri Ankuro Ho Ha 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 Ho Bhagav Sarva Tata Gata Vajra Mame Minza Vajra Bhava samaya sattva ahum pe. Om Vajrasattva samaya manupalai. Vajrasattva teno patishta didro me bau. Sutokayo me bawa supokayo. Sarva siddhi me prayazan sarva karma sutsa. Siddhan shriyan kuru hum ha 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 ho bhagav. Sarva tata gata vajra mame munza vajra bhava ma samaya sattva ahum pe. Om vajra sattva samaya manupalaya. Vajra sattva teno padishta didro me bhav. Suto kayo me bhava supo kayo me bhava. Anurakto me bhava sarva siddhi. Sutta me siddha shriyam kuru ha 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 ho bhagav sarva tata gata vajra mamim vajra bhava ma samaya sattva ahum pe. Dani mishe mombaye tamse leni gashinyam Lama gombo kyabzo chi tsowo dorje zimbate tukche chimbe dani chi drove tsola da gyaba chi dorje sembe shene rigipu kyoge diktre dan tamse nyamcha tamche chanshin tago she sune rangla timbe rangi koson dan dorje sempe koson to yermi che parakyu. Jetsu lame kutse rapten chi Trinle chochur gepadang Lo san tempe drume sasumgi Drove munsel tatu ne gyurchi Nimo dele tsendele Nime kuyan delekshin Nientsen takto delekpe, concho sumke jingelo, concho sumge ngodrupso, concho sumge trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. So we conclude here for today. Now we make a very short break and then there is Guru Puja. And then tomorrow we start again 10:30 and the whole day to explain more the practice and do more the practice together. Okay?